My name is Charlotte Ashford. I'm 32 years old, and last Christmas, my parents arranged a $45,000 family getaway for everyone but me. Rather than a ticket to Aspen, my mother left a note on the kitchen counter. Water the plants, feed the dog, collect our dry cleaning. Beside it lay the receipt. 4 ski passes, a 5-star suite, spa sessions, private lessons for my brother, $45,000 for a holiday that excluded me entirely. That was the instant I ceased being their unpaid housekeeper. I stopped watering, stopped tidying, and began to strategize. 3 weeks later, during their lavish New Year's brunch with 40 guests and endless champagne, I presented them with a document that sent my mother sinking into her chair. Before I go further, please like and subscribe if this story strikes a chord. Drop a comment below. Where are you tuning in from right now? Now, let's return to December 15th, the day I discovered that receipt. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, spreadsheets illuminating the screen, working remotely, or more accurately, working from my parents' home, the house I'd occupied my whole life, specifically the basement. We'll come back to that. Mom entered without a knock. She never did. She set a sheet of paper beside my laptop and tapped it twice with her polished nail. We're off to Aspen tomorrow. Here's what must be handled while we're away. I scanned the list. Water the orchids, feed Molly, retrieve dry cleaning, shovel snow if a storm hits, receive any deliveries. What time should I be packed tomorrow? I asked. She stared at me as if I'd spoken in tongues. Packed, Charlotte? Someone has to remain and mind the house. She smoothed her blouse. You know Tyler can't skip this. He's introducing Emma to the family. Tyler, my 28-year-old brother, the one whose full college tuition of $180,000 was covered, who received a BMW for his 21st birthday, whose $3,200 monthly Manhattan rent appeared faithfully on our parents' credit card each month. I never attended college. Mom deemed it impractical for girls. She insisted I master something practical at home instead. So I learned to cook, to clean, to stay silent. Okay, I replied, as I always had. Mom nodded, already turning away. Oh, and the orchids require distilled water. Don't let them die again like last time. She vanished upstairs, leaving me gazing at that list. This time, something felt profoundly different. I just hadn't identified it yet. That evening, I sat on my basement bed. No windows, only concrete walls coated in an unconvincing, cheerful yellow. Molly rested beside me, her golden coat warm against my leg. At 12, she now had graying fur around her muzzle and moved more slowly on the stairs. She had been my 20th birthday gift, the one truly good thing I ever received. Somewhere I still kept her registration papers, my name clearly listed, Charlotte Ashford, owner. Molly whined gently and nudged her head into my palm. I know, girl, I know. My laptop chimed, an email alert. I nearly overlooked it, but instinct prompted me to open it. A forwarded message. Mom had sent it to Dad and, by mistake, copied me. Subject, FWD, booking confirmation, Aspen Mountain. Inside, 4 guests, December 18th to 28th, with the attached receipt, $45,000 covering ski passes, the presidential suite, spa treatments, private lessons for Tyler, $45,000 for a holiday that excluded me entirely. I reread the total 3 times. Then I surveyed my basement space. The used mattress, the curbside desk salvaged 6 years earlier, the lone lamp that flickered whenever the furnace started. I remembered Grandma, the 5 years I devoted to her care, feeding her, bathing her, keeping vigil through sleepless nights until the very end. Mom declared, family doesn't pay family. Yet Tyler earned $500 weekly last summer just for assisting Dad with yard work. Molly nudged again. I opened a Fush tab and typed 4 words, how to check credit report. A quiet shift had occurred within me. There was no reversing it. The free credit report loaded in 3 minutes. It took 20 more for my trembling to subside. 3 credit cards opened in my name without my awareness. The earliest dated to age 19, the precise year Mom persuaded me to forgo college applications. Combined balance, $67,000. I scrolled the transactions: Pottery Barn furniture, first-class flights to Miami, lavish sprees at Nordstrom and Neiman Marcus. Every billing address matched this house, my parents' home. Yet, I had never received a single statement. My hands shook as I continued scrolling. I recalled every denied job application, every rejected rental attempt, the puzzled expressions from landlords, the polite rejections. Unfortunately, your credit score does not meet our criteria. I had believed I was simply unfortunate, that something was inherently flawed in me, but it wasn't me at all. They had borrowed my name, my social security number, my future, and spent it on their elegant furniture and exotic escapes. Molly pressed nearer, sensing my turmoil. I wove my fingers into her fur and concentrated on breathing. In, out. In, out. The anger arrived gradually, not fiery and sudden, but cold, steady, the sort that seeps into your bones and lingers. For 13 years, I had been confined to this basement, imprisoned by a credit score I hadn't ruined, and snared by parents who smiled warmly across the dinner table while quietly drowning me in secret debt. I closed the report. I opened LinkedIn and searched for a name unspoken in 8 years. Diane Okonkwo, my former college friend who had become a lawyer. Sleep evaded me that night. Instead, I compiled a list. The accountant in me demanded everything in stark black and white. If I remain silent, 1, I stay in this basement until my parents pass, perhaps even longer. 2, my credit never heals. I never secure my own apartment, my own car loan, my own independence. 3, when Mom and Dad age, I'll be expected to care for them exactly as I did for Grandma. No compensation, no respite, no gratitude. 4, Molly is 12. She won't be here forever. When she's gone, I'll have nothing left that truly belongs to me. I stared at that list until my eyes stung. Then I glanced at my phone, at the LinkedIn connection request I'd sent Diane at 2 a.m. The green dot beside her name glowed. She was online. 3 dots appeared. She was typing. My pulse raced. Her message popped up. Charlotte, oh my God, it's been ages. I was just thinking of you last month. How are you? I typed back quickly. I need legal advice. It's about my parents. Can we meet? The 3 dots returned. A brief pause. Then, tomorrow, coffee, 10 a.m. I'll send the address. And Charlotte, whatever it is, we'll sort it out. Molly lifted her head and gazed at me. Her tail gave one slow wag, then another, as if she understood. 2 more weeks, girl, I murmured. That's all the time they'll be away. 2 weeks to decide what happens next. She settled her head back onto my lap. Through my small basement window, the season's first snowflakes drifted down in December silence. I had no clear plan yet, but I was finished with being unseen. The next morning brought pure chaos. I stood at the foot of the stairs and watched the familiar spectacle. Designer suitcases lined the foyer, garment bags draped over banisters, ski gear worth more than 3 months of my wages. Tyler bounded down, phone already recording. Aspen, baby, he narrated to the camera, never glancing my way. His girlfriend, Emma, the new one, 3 or 4 months in, followed quietly behind. She met my eyes and faltered. Are you sure you can't come? Before I could reply, Mom glided between us. Charlotte loves staying home, she said in that bright, company-polished tone. She's never really been a ski person anyway. I've never even tried skiing, I pointed out. Exactly. Mom smoothed her cashmere scarf. You wouldn't enjoy it. Dad emerged from his study. The car's here. Let's move. No hug, no goodbye. No one mentioned missing me. Mom simply nodded toward the counter where the list waited. Don't forget the dry cleaning and shovel if it snows. The Hendersons judge. The door swung open. Frigid air poured in. They streamed out, Tyler still filming, Emma casting one last guilty glance, Dad checking his watch. Mom lingered at the threshold. Oh, and water the orchids twice. They're expensive. Then she vanished. The door clicked shut. Silence swallowed the house. Just me and Molly. I stood motionless for a full minute, staring at the sealed door. The orchids rested on the windowsill, fragile, insistent, awaiting water I had no intention of providing. My phone vibrated. Diane. See you at 10. Coffee shop on Main. I looked into what you mentioned. Charlotte, we really need to talk. I snatched my coat and keys. The orchids could wait an eternity. Diane looked almost unchanged. Same gentle smile, same piercing eyes that caught everything. She waited at a corner table with 2 coffees already prepared. She rose and pulled me into a fierce hug. 8 years, she said. 8 years and you haven't aged a day. We sat. She pushed my coffee closer, then opened a folder. I did a quick check after your message. Her voice softened. Charlotte, what I uncovered. She spread the pages. My credit report glowed with yellow highlights. This is identity theft. Those accounts were opened without your permission. She met my gaze evenly. It's a federal offense. My throat constricted. But they're my parents. That doesn't make it lawful. She outlined my choices. Police report, charges, a lawsuit for damages. I shook my head. I don't want them jailed. I cradled the warm mug. I just want them to finally see me, to own what they've done. Diane watched me quietly for a long beat. Then we handle this another way. She drew out a legal pad. You said you cared for your grandmother full-time for 5 years. Did your mother ever document any promise of compensation? I remembered the sleepless nights, the bedpans, the endless pills, Mom swearing it would all pay off someday. There's an email, I said slowly. She wrote she'd make it right once Grandma recovered. Grandma never recovered. No, she didn't. Diane nodded, pen moving swiftly. That email could qualify as a written memorialization of a verbal agreement. She looked up. And Charlotte, have you ever heard of a mechanic's lien? I shook my head. Then let me show you how we make you visible. 2 days later, I sat in a small office facing Marcus Smith, a CPA specializing in family financial conflicts. Diane's recommendation, gray-haired, bespectacled, the sort of man who'd witnessed every variety of human mess without flinching. Papers stacked neatly between us. Let's tally what you're owed, pen poised.
Her name, my name, our address. Owner, Charlotte Ashford. I photographed the certificate, uploaded it to the cloud, and emailed a copy to Diane. Then I kept searching. Beneath stacks of faded birthday cards and a pressed corsage from prom, I found it. A printed email from 2019, the year Grandma's decline became irreversible. Mom's words leaped off the page. I know this is asking a lot, but family takes care of family. When Grandma gets better, we'll make it up to you. I promise we'll work out something fair. Grandma died 14 months later. Nothing was ever worked out. Nothing was ever fair. I photographed that too. Then I sat on the edge of my bed and surveyed the basement. 10 years I'd lived in this space. 10 years of secondhand furniture and secondhand dreams. The walls seemed to press in closer than ever. I began packing. It wasn't difficult. I owned so little. Clothes, books, laptop, the box of irreplaceable documents. Every day while they were away, I carried another load to the storage unit I'd quietly rented across town. By day 5, the basement still looked lived in. By day 8, it felt hollowed out. Molly watched me with those steady, ancient eyes. Almost there, girl, I told her. Almost free. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler.
This place is unreal. You'd hate it anyway. Too cold. LOL. Attached, a photo of the four of them on a ski lift, snow-dusted peaks behind, all in matching white jackets. I didn't answer. Some messages aren't worth a reply. Diane knew someone. Her college roommate owns a rental, a small studio above a downtown bookstore, compact, clean, flooded with natural light. She won't run a credit check, Diane assured me. I vouched for you. I signed the lease on December 22nd, paid first and last month rent from the modest savings I'd scraped together through remote accounting gigs. One main room, a miniature kitchen, a bathroom barely bigger than a closet, and 3 real windows, windows that let in actual sunlight. I stood in the center of the empty space and cried. For the next 6 days, I lived in parallel worlds. At my parents' house, I maintained the illusion, let mail accumulate, left the orchids to wither, but I never neglected Molly. Every morning she ate. Every evening we walked. She was mine. She had always been mine. The dry cleaning remained at the cleaners. Snow drifted unshoveled across the front walk. Let the Hendersons judge. On December 27th, Mom called from Aspen. Charlotte, Mrs. Henderson mentioned she hasn't seen you outside in days. Is everything all right? Everything's fine, Mom. I kept my tone flat and even. Just busy with work. Well, make sure the driveway's cleared before we return. Your father hates slush. Got it. Enjoy the rest of your trip. I ended the call before she could press further. That night, I moved the final pieces, toiletries, my pillow, Molly's favorite blanket. I stood in the stripped basement one last time, the yellow walls, the ceiling water stain, the room where I'd spent a decade waiting to be noticed. Goodbye, I whispered to the silence. My phone buzzed again. Tyler. Hey, Mom is planning a New Year's brunch, 40 guests. She needs you to cater. You in? I smiled at the screen. I'll be there. Okay, I need to pause for a second. If you've ever been the dependable one in your family, the one who always shows up, always helps, always gives, and still felt completely invisible, I see you. Quick question. What would you do if you discovered your parents had been using your identity for more than 10 years? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. And if you want to see how this unfolds at that New Year's brunch, stay tuned. December 28th. 3 p.m. I watched from across the street as the black SUV rolled into the driveway. Doors opened, sun-kissed faces, weary smiles, premium ski equipment. They were back. I walked up the front path, timing it perfectly, casual, almost accidental, as though I'd simply stepped out for fresh air. Mom saw me first. Charlotte, why are you standing outside? It's freezing. Just getting some air. Tyler brushed past me without speaking, hauling luggage up. I could see that. 3 months with Tyler, and she still hadn't learned the unspoken rules. Before I could respond, Mom materialized behind her. Emma, sweetheart, you're a guest. The honey in her tone was almost believable. Don't trouble yourself with the kitchen. Charlotte has everything under control. She draped an arm around Emma's shoulders and steered her gently away, but not before pausing to glance back at me. Oh, and Charlotte, wear something appropriate tomorrow. Her gaze skimmed my sweater. That's fine for down here, but we'll have company. Dad passed through on his way to the liquor cabinet. Food ready by 10. The Hendersons are always punctual. Will Aunt Patricia be coming? I asked. Mom's face flickered, just for a second. Yes, unfortunately. She inspected a bottle of champagne. Just ignore whatever she says. You know how she is. Dramatic, always stirring trouble. I thought of Aunt Patricia, Dad's sister, the only one who ever looked at me with real concern at family gatherings, the only one who'd ever quietly asked, "Are you okay, honey? You look exhausted." I'll keep that in mind, I said. Mom nodded, pleased, and glided out with Emma in tow. I checked the clock. 12 more hours. The manila envelope already waited in my car. Paper signed, Lien properly filed. All that remained was delivery. I switched off the kitchen light and drove back to spend one final night in my new apartment. Molly was waiting. January 1st, 8 a.m. I wasn't there when Mom descended expecting to find me already at the stove, sleeves rolled, apron on. I heard the rest later from Aunt Patricia. Mom stepped into the kitchen, empty, cold, no chopping boards out, no sense of hollandaise, no Charlotte. She called my name, called it louder, then screamed it. She raced to the basement door, flung it open. Nothing. No bed, no desk, no clothes hanging in the closet, just bare yellow walls and the echo of her own voice bouncing back. Molly was gone too. Panic set in instantly. She phoned Dad, phoned Tyler, dialed my number 16 times. I didn't pick up. By 9:30, she'd panic-ordered emergency catering from the most expensive place in town, triple rates for the holiday. She was frantically arranging store-bought pastries on platters when the doorbell rang. Aunt Patricia, an hour early. I thought I'd help set up, she told me later. What she saw, Mom's hands trembling, Dad pacing by the window, Tyler asking in a small voice, "Should we just cancel?" "We are not canceling anything," Mom hissed. "I spent weeks planning this. Charlotte is simply being dramatic. She'll show up." Guests began arriving at 10 sharp. The Hendersons, the Morgans, colleagues, old friends. 40 people filling the living room with polite chatter and the clink of champagne flutes. Someone asked about me. "Where's Charlotte? I've heard so much about her." Mom's smile stayed fixed. "She's under the weather, resting upstairs." At 10:45, the doorbell rang again. Dad frowned. "We're not expecting anyone else." He opened the door. I stood on the porch, not in an apron, not in the kitchen, not invisible. Black blazer, pressed slacks, hair neatly pulled back, manila envelope in one hand, Molly at my side, tail sweeping gentle arcs. "Hello, Dad." My voice came out even. "I'm here for the brunch." The room fell silent. 40 pairs of eyes swung toward the doorway, toward me. Mom recovered fastest. She always did. She crossed the floor with her practiced hostess smile locked in place. "Charlotte, darling," her voice projected for the audience. "We were so worried. Are you feeling better?" She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "I'm fine, Mom. Actually, I've never felt better." Dad shut the door behind me, jaw tight. "Where have you been, and why did you take the dog?" Molly is my dog. Calm. Factual. Her registration has always been in my name. "Charlotte, this isn't the time," Mom began. "Actually," I said, "this is exactly the time." The room's attention sharpened like a blade. Mrs. Henderson leaned forward slightly. Mr. Morgan set his glass down. In the corner, near the fireplace, Aunt Patricia watched, expression unreadable, but not worried. Hopeful. "I have something for both of you," I said. I lifted the envelope. Dad's jaw clenched harder. "Whatever this is, we can discuss it privately." "I've been private for 22 years. I met his gaze. "I think it's time for transparency." Tyler stood up from his chair by the window. "Sis, what are you doing? You're embarrassing Mom and Dad." I turned to him, my brother, the golden one, who had never once had to scrape for attention. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone, Tyler." I unfastened the clasp. "I'm here to be seen." Mom's smile fractured at the edges. Dad's fists tightened at his sides. The room held its collective breath. I drew out the papers that would change everything. I handed them to Mom first. Her hands were steady when she accepted them. They weren't steady for long. She scanned the top page. Color bled from her face. "What is this?" "It's an invoice." I folded my hands in front of me. "For 20 years of unpaid domestic labor, housekeeping, cooking, cleaning, full-time caregiving for Grandma, all calculated at fair market rates." Dad snatched the stack from her. His eyes raced across the figures. "This is absurd. $387,000? I rounded down, actually. Whispers spread like ripples. Did she say unpaid labor? How much just for cooking and cleaning? Mom's voice pitched higher. "Where are your parents? We gave you a home." "You gave me a basement. No windows for 10 years. I didn't blink. While you used my social security number to fund your lifestyle. That was for emergencies. Spa treatments in Miami 3 weeks ago while you were in Aspen." She flinched. Tyler finally lifted his eyes from his phone. "I didn't know about the credit cards." I swear, I believe you. I turned to him. But you knew about everything else. You knew I stayed home while you went to college. You knew I took care of Grandma while you visited once a month, if that. You knew I was living in a basement while you had a 2-bedroom in Manhattan. He dropped his gaze. No denial, no defense. I reached down and picked up Molly's leash from where I'd set it by the door. I'm not asking for the money, I said. I never expected you to actually pay $400,000. Mom looked up, a flicker of hope crossing her face. But I am asking for acknowledgement, I continued, for you to see me, to see what you've done. I clipped the leash to Molly's collar. And even if you never do, I'm done waiting. I turned toward the door. Charlotte, Dad's voice cracked, almost pleading. Mom stood, unsteady. Home? What do you mean home? This is your home. I almost laughed. Almost. This was never my home. This was where I worked for free for 20 years. I opened the front door. Cold January air rushed in. Wait! Mom's voice rose, thin and sharp. You can't just leave. What about the Lien? You can't expect us to actually. The Lien stays, I said, hand still on the knob, until the credit card debt is paid off. $67,000. You have 90 days. Dad stepped forward. And if we refuse? Then the lien remains on your property. You won't be able to sell, won't be able to refinance. I shrugged. That's how liens work. I'm sure you know that, Dad. You worked at a bank for 30 years. His face reddened. This is extortion. This is accountability. I met his glare without flinching. Something you've avoided your entire life. Aunt Patricia moved to stand beside me. I'll walk you out, honey. Patricia, if you leave with her. Mom's voice held a warning. You'll what, Linda? Patricia's smile was weary but genuine. Cut me off? I think I'll survive. We stepped outside together. Molly trotted between us, tail wagging again. Behind us, I heard Tyler's voice, small and uncertain. What are we going to do? And Mom's response, harsh and brittle. We'll fix this. We always fix things. But she couldn't fix this. Not the debt, not the witnesses, not the 20 years of silence finally broken open. At my car, Patricia hugged me tight. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I should have said something years ago. You're saying it now. That's what matters. I loaded Molly into the back seat, started the engine, and drove toward my apartment, with windows, toward the rest of my life. 1 week later, I sat in my studio, sunlight pouring through all 3 windows. Molly sprawled in her favorite patch of carpet where the afternoon light pooled warmest. My phone buzzed. Diane. Have you seen the neighborhood Facebook group? I hadn't. I'd been avoiding social media, but curiosity won. Someone had posted about the incident at the Ashford house. No names, but everyone knew. I scrolled the comments. I always thought something was off about that family. Poor girl. She was always so quiet whenever I saw her. I heard the parents opened credit cards in her name. That's illegal. No wonder she never moved out. They trapped her. I closed the app. There was no satisfaction in it, just a hollow ache. Another notification. Unknown number. Charlotte, this is Emma. I broke up with Tyler. I stared at the screen. He tried to defend your parents, said you were being dramatic, that you'd always been jealous. I couldn't be with someone who thinks that way. 3 dots. Then, I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. If you ever need a friend, I'm here. I read it twice, 3 times. I didn't reply, not yet, but I saved her number. Molly lifted her head, looked at me, and sighed. A deep, contented sound. I know, girl. We're okay. Another buzz, this time an email from Richard Ashford. Subject, we need to talk. I didn't open it, not today. Instead, I made tea, sat by the window, and watched the winter sun slide behind the buildings. I hadn't destroyed them, that was never the point. I just wanted to be free. And for the first time, I was. I agreed to meet Dad a week later, neutral ground, a downtown coffee shop. Diane's advice, public space, keep it short, don't give anything away. He was already there, in a corner booth, looking older than I remembered. Charlotte. He half rose, then sat when I didn't move to hug him. I slid into the opposite seat. You wanted to talk. Your mother is devastated. I waited. She hasn't slept, won't eat. The neighbors keep asking questions. Is she devastated about what happened or about what people think? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. We'll pay off the credit cards, he said finally. Your mother's already arranging the transfer. Good. But the Lien, he leaned forward. That goes too far, Charlotte. We're your parents. Parents who used my social security number when I was 19. Parents who let me believe I was worthless for a decade. My voice stayed level. Parents who took a $45,000 vacation and left me a chore list. He flinched. We thought you were happy. You never complained. Because every time I tried, you made me feel guilty. I quoted his own words back. After everything we've done for you, what exactly did you do for me? He stared into his coffee, silent. I stood. The lien stays until the debt is cleared. After that, I'll have it removed. Wait! His voice cracked. Your mother wants to see you. I paused. I know, but I'm not ready. Maybe I never will be. I walked out, didn't look back. The January wind stung my face, but the sun was bright, and for the first time in 32 years, I could breathe. 2 months passed. The notification came on a Tuesday, a deposit, $67,000. I called Diane. They paid it. All of it? All of it. She was quiet a moment. How do you feel? I looked out the window. Sun on snow, Molly snoring softly on her bed. Relieved, sad, both. The consequences rippled outward. I heard about them from Aunt Patricia during our weekly dinners. Mom resigned from her social club for health reasons. Dad stopped attending the community board meetings he'd chaired for a decade. Tyler lost his job. Unrelated, just bad timing, but he blamed me anyway in a text I didn't answer. The lien was removed, clean, official, done. I sat in my apartment that evening, Molly's head in my lap, sunlight fading across the floor. I hadn't won anything dramatic. I'd simply stopped losing, and that was enough. My credit score began its slow, steady ascent. Diane had warned it might take a year, perhaps longer, but the numbers were finally trending upward. For the first time in 13 years, the direction felt right. Work gave me a modest raise, small on paper, enormous in meaning. Vindication wrapped in a paycheck. Aunt Patricia arrived one afternoon with a jade succulent for my windowsill. Impossible to kill, she promised with a wry smile, even for people with black thumbs like us. We laughed, real, unguarded laughter. It felt like medicine. One evening, my phone lit up. A text from Tyler. I'm sorry for everything. Can we talk sometime? I stared at the words, at the hairline fracture he'd finally made in the wall he'd helped build for years. I typed back, not yet, but maybe someday, when you're ready to actually listen. His reply came almost immediately. One word. Okay. Progress. Microscopic, perhaps, but real. Molly lifted her head and regarded me with those ancient, knowing eyes. We're getting there, girl, I told her. She gave one slow wag of her tail. We were. 6 months after the brunch, I moved up in the same building. Same landlord who'd taken a chance on me before my credit even deserved it. This apartment had a balcony. Molly and I spent summer evenings out there, watching the sun sink behind the city skyline. She moved slower now, muzzle more silver than black, but her contentment was absolute. Mom's letters kept arriving, one a week, sometimes two. I opened every one. I don't understand why you're doing this. We miss you so much. When are you coming home? Why won't you answer us?" In 6 months of envelopes, not once did I find the words, "I'm sorry." Not a single line acknowledging harm done. I folded each letter carefully, tucked them into a box in my closet. Evidence. Or perhaps simply proof that the years hadn't been a dream I'd invented. Aunt Patricia came every weekend. We cooked together, simple meals that filled the apartment with warmth. Over chopping boards, she told me stories of my mother as a young woman, before resentment hardened her edges. "Your grandmother compared us constantly," she said once, voice low. "Linda was never thin enough, never smart enough, never good enough." That doesn't excuse what she did to me. No. Patricia's eyes were sad but clear. It doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. I carried that thought for weeks. Hurt people hurt people. My mother's wounds had become mine. Understanding arrived, forgiveness did not. And I learned that forgiveness is not a prerequisite for healing. Molly nudged my knee with her head. "I know, girl," I whispered, scratching behind her ears. "I know." Some nights I still dreamed of the basement, the yellow walls, the ceiling stain, the suffocating sense of being erased. Then I woke to sunlight streaming through actual windows, to a life that belonged entirely to me. The knock came on a Sunday afternoon. I opened the door expecting a delivery. Instead, Tyler stood there. He looked different, thinner, wearier, a new beard shadowing his jaw. "I didn't know where you lived," he said quickly. "Patricia gave me the address. I hope that's okay." I stepped aside. "Come in." He entered slowly, eyes traveling over the light-filled space, the plants on the sill, the open balcony door. Molly lifted her head, tail sweeping the floor. He crouched to greet her, fingers gentle behind her ears. "This is nice," he said quietly. "Really nice." "It's mine." He nodded, rose, hands shoved deep in his pockets. I was an ass. My whole life. I didn't see it, because it was easier not to see. "I know. Mom and Dad want me to convince you to come back, to make peace." I waited. He told them no. He met my eyes. He told them they need to apologize first. Really apologize. Not their version, the real thing. Something in my chest unclenched, a tension I hadn't named. "Thank you, Tyler. That means something." He moved toward the door, paused. "I'm trying to be better. It's hard." "I know." I gave him the smallest of smiles. "But you're trying. That's more than they ever did." He left. I watched him disappear down the hallway. My brother, still partly a stranger, but perhaps one I was beginning to meet. I closed the door. Molly trotted over and leaned into my legs. I knelt, wrapped my arms around her, felt the steady thump of her heart against mine. 12 years of unconditional love. "We made it, girl. We're finally home." Outside my window, summer light poured in, golden and unapologetic. I didn't burn bridges. I simply stopped building them for people who refused to meet me halfway. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you, truly. A few things I learned. 1. Your labor has value. Never let anyone, not even family, guilt you out of expecting fair recognition for it. 2. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. 3. Sometimes the quietest person in the room has been carrying the heaviest load in silence. If this story touched something in you, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family? How did it unfold? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like if it resonated, subscribe if you want more stories about family, boundaries, and quiet reckonings. Check the description for another video on the same themes. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it.